when I was in high school, and I don't know when it originated, but I always knew I wanted to be an architect. And maybe it stems from watching the Brady Bunch, but for whatever reason, I was going to be an architect. And all through high school, that's what I was going to do. And the summer between my junior and senior year, I visited 3 schools, the architecture program, a state SUNY school, a large private school, and a small private technical school, and visited the architecture departments, and all 3 of them suggested I look at engineering. The reason is I had no portfolio. I had no art background. The common theme was math and science. You're very strong in math and science, but you have no art background. You have no portfolio. So I when I got home, went to the public library and had no idea what civil engineering was. Saw structural engineering as a subset and thought, well, that sounds a lot like architecture, and that's where I started. That's how I got into. I applied to RPI, early decision, got accepted, and got into the civil program. And as I got through school and as I started getting through my career, I never really became a structural engineer. I do structural engineering,
sure,
but I can analyze it. But there are people that do it much more frequently, and I can design a building. I know it's going to stand up, but probably cost 3 to 4 times more than the owner wants to spend on steel, because again, they're in terms of understanding how a building's put together and knowing what it takes to optimize a design. That's not something I really got into. But again, I consider myself more of a jack of all trades of civil engineering, where I've done land development, I've done structural, I understand enough geotech to know when to bring a geotechnical engineer on. I love my hydrology, my fluids class. Open channel flow is one that not a lot of people will admit to liking, but that's one that I get excited about.
Okay.
So I went to,
just to pull on that, why so open channel flow? Why does that put a smile on your face?
I think it's understanding there are a lot of oddities about how open channel flow works, and if a channel is getting deeper or shallower in relation of velocity to depth, and it's all based on energy. But the way that the energy curves work, depending on which side of the curve you're on, it'll behave differently. And there's a lot of interest and surprises in it in terms and things that numerically don't seem like they make sense until you really delve into it. And as you get into the math of what that channel flow is doing, and the properties of let's say a stream crossing, very often it's counterintuitive, and it fascinates me to go into a design and delve into why my numbers ended up being where they were when it doesn't really make sense. And a lot of it just has to do with the way that water flows, and it again all comes back to energy. It's understanding the energy of a system as something gets deeper or wider or faster or slower, and it fascinates. The numbers fascinate me, and that's one where it's not the physical water that's out in the field. It's the numbers, and the numbers game is that. Just becomes fascinating to me.
Sure, because I'm focused on the structures, and I know that there is water. I know that it flows, right? But that's something that I don't have expertise in. That's why I'm curious. But I kind of broke your stride. You were talking RPI and open channel flow, and
So where I was going with that is that I went to RPI, got through most of the basic courses, but life got in the way, and I actually took a year off, and I was going to go into theater.
Yeah,
I actually went to school for a year, was doing theater, and after that year, I really sat and I said, I can do engineering and do theater on the side. I can't really do acting and do engineering on the side.
Sure.
And I'm not sure that I'm set up for the life of an impoverished actor. Okay. So I ended up going back to engineering school. Okay. And I went to RPI a couple of years, like again, on and off, but I was working, took a year, went back for a semester, and eventually got to the point where I decided that it wasn't working financially, so I transferred to University of New Hampshire, and then I got a job in New Hampshire, a full-time job, worked part-time, and ended up getting my degree about 3 months before my 10th year high school reunion. Okay. I got my 4-year degree, but that was my goal, was by the time I got to my reunion, I'd have it.
Do you ever regret not going into architecture or theater?
I don't, and part of it is that what I've done as a civil engineer, much of what I've done feels very architectural, especially when I was doing wastewater treatment work. We didn't have an architect. I was the de facto architect on the project. We had wastewater experts, we had structural experts, we had mechanical and electrical engineers, and I was the one putting the project together. So again, I gravitated toward that architectural type work, and years later found out, there's actually a term for this. It's project management. And that's real. I'd been doing it. I took courses, got my project management professional certification, and taking those courses, there were many things that I just looked at, isn't this common sense? Doesn't everybody do this? And the answer is no, not everybody does. And I think it stems again from that desire of putting a project together, and again, it wasn't so much the artistic part of the architecture. It was the idea of creating something and being able to create a project, and I've been able to do that in the realm that I've had in civil engineering with civil engineering projects versus an architectural building per se. With regard to theater, I think the theater courses that I took have helped contribute to my success in public presentations, planning board presentations, convincing a zoning board or persuading a zoning board why we need a variance, or persuading why a certain project, also working with staff, working with my management. I think that those theater courses are, again, something that's not part of the civil engineering curriculum that helped me, because civil engineers that didn't do that don't necessarily have the same skills that I got from taking those theater courses. Another one that roll that into the program, have somehow some means to be able to get that public speaking and that art of persuasion into the curriculum. It's not just you come down in the end and there's a number. It's you've got to explain to somebody why that's the right number or not. And the irony of all of this is that a year and a half ago, I accepted the job with McLaren Engineering here in Albany. McLaren has probably the most robust, very skilled entertainment group doing work, in the theater industry.
Sure.
And so it does all come full circle sometimes.